FP3 and qualifying. In FP3, we saw a lot of track evolution and we saw a lot of cars like McLaren performing well. McLaren had been on top of their game all through the weekend, except for when Pierre Gasly was ahead of them. But they look very strong on this track. Hi, welcome to the short podcast before the main race analysis. But it looks a little bit dicey when you see the gap that McLaren are in FP3 ahead of the rest of the pack. They're like 6.5 tenths away from everybody, the two McLarens. They just gave the gap like, guys, stay in your lane, may we dey our lane. But that is not representative of what we are saying in qualifying, because the qualifying is going to be more closer. The McLaren knows how to manage their tires in heat. Unlike last season, the other drivers are struggling to maximize their tires. The McLaren are not making so much gain on the straight. The straight is not their problem. The corners, in which they had this same gain last year. Remember when Lewis Hamilton was chasing Norris, it was just a big gap for him. He closed down on the straight, he closes down everywhere, but on those slow corners, fast corners, Lewis Hamilton was just losing close to 7 tenths every lap to Norris. The McLarens are so fast on the corners, they are not taking the straights as their basic. They are just competitive on the straight, but on those fast corners and the slow corners, they are gaps ahead of everybody, and that is where they are getting more time out of everyone, because when you are losing your car on the corners, the car is just sliding up and down, you will lose time. But McLaren is not like that. For teams like Williams, they are just in the game, though Williams are saying they are much more concentrated on next year, but they are just in the game. Lewis Hamilton still struggle against his teammates. Charles Leclerc looks much more solid in that car, but Lewis Hamilton is just not getting it right in that car. George Russell was the best of the rest, coming third with 6 tenths away. Max Verstappen 8 tenths, as in 8.5 tenths away. Charles Leclerc 9 tenths away. The gap is just there. They are going to close up in this qualifying, but how will they close up in the race? The race will be run around 6 p.m. tomorrow. The race will be very interesting because the weather will be calmer, cooler. All these guys will bunch up. How will they pan out? I said it yesterday that whoever takes pole will not win this race, but I think I'm going to eat that. I'm sorry for saying that. This is already showing a different vibe because everybody is just distant away. It's just like they are in a world of their own. McLaren don't want anybody to touch them. They're just like, just leave me. Get out. So it's going to be a very distant one. And what I'm seeing in qualifying will make me tell you who is possible to win the race. The two McLarens are favorites. The race pace looks good for the Ferrari and the Mercedes. The Red Bull are still far off. But in the race, we will see how all these things work out. The Alpine are looking fast. Maybe they've turned up the engine. Some people are saying maybe McLaren have turned up the engine or while others didn't turn it up. Yeah, everybody would turn it loud, but I don't see anybody getting close to the McLaren except they make mistakes like they did in Japan. But if they don't make such mistakes, the car is just on another level. Charles Leclerc is complaining about sliding up and down. A lot of drivers are just everywhere. Water spilling issue. I don't know why this is still an issue. Alonso said there are 20 cars on the track. He has overtaken 26. Is he counting on high speed? Is his maths Martin in Q3? I don't understand how that will be happening. Some cars are evolving backwards like the Haas. The Sauber looks like it's evolving backwards. It's not moving forward. And qualifying will really show us where everybody is. But if drivers like Lewis Hamilton are 7 tenths first sector, 4 tenths of second sector, which comprise of very fast corners and slow corners, then there's a problem. The tires will work well for everybody in the colder session in the evening in qualifying, but it's not about the tire working well for them now. It's all about these drivers getting to compete with McLaren. If they can compete with McLaren, it's just on another level. The SCAT race is still going on here in Ondo. The first race, not what we expected, but it went very good. The second race too is looking good. Team Rage won the first race, and after qualifying, I'll give you much more on the two races. I love the qualifying was a masterpiece. We had 3 teams, 4 drivers playing their role in the qualifying to show that they have the pace. But in Q1, we had a lot of teams shaping up what they can really do. The Williams were on pace. Max Verstappen closing up the gap to the top, to the McLarens, telling them, don't count me out. I am here to win it. Like we have in the races of this season. We've had pole setter winning the races. And would that be another one in this race tomorrow? Who would know? Jeddah is a place in which it's difficult to overtake, but they have some very beautiful places you can overtake, but it's still difficult. While last year there were some very difficult overtakes in which we had Kevin Magnussen packed his bus ahead of the people behind him, blocked about 8 to 9 drivers behind him to show them that he really brought a tractor to the race and is ready to help his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg has moved to Sauber this season, with Sauber losing their 2 drivers in Q1. Stroll 16, Jack Doohan 17, Nico Hülkenberg 18, Ocon 19, and Bortoleto 20. Bortoleto made a big mistake, and that spun him off, and his time was irrelevant. He's had a very turbulent practice this weekend. Ferrari has changed their power unit, while the underpowered car cars have also changed their power unit. This track is a power sensitive track in which you need a very good engine to set good times and put yourself in a good position. Max Verstappen dominated the Q1 while Norris, Piastri, Antonelli and Albon did quite some time to put themselves in a good place. Max Verstappen is just eating the first sectors in which the McLarens are very good at all those S-curves, the chicane, and that was a good one from him. In Q2, we had Alex Albon, good qualifying for him, but he was unable to get to Q3. We had Alex Albon, Liam Lawson, Alonso, Aja, and Oliver Bierman. Good one for Oliver Bierman, getting into Q2 this weekend again. What qualifying this boy has had this season. But in Q2, we have Lando Norris stopping the time, Max Verstappen second, Piastri third, Russell fourth, and Antonelli fifth. But going into Q3, Lando Norris bolted his car into the wall and he was unable to continue, which brought out a red flag. And we knew there was a problem at that point. Those that were setting times were unable to set time. So it's just a touch and go, a give and take time in which these drivers need to just set. So starting the qualifying all over again, we had Max Verstappen getting himself into setting some quality time, but he had fuel to run 2 quality laps. He went into the Q3, got some good time, topped the time sheet. Russell broke his lap record. Oscar Piastri came, broke his lap record, and Max Verstappen was like, well, let me show you guys how it's been done. By 100th of a second, broke the lap record in which Oscar Piastri set to take the pole position in Jeddah. Max Verstappen starting P1, Oscar Piastri P2, George Russell P3, Charles Leclerc P4, and others behind them. Lewis Hamilton struggled all through the weekend. He'll be starting P8, Sainz P7, Antonelli P6, and Yuki Tsunoda giving a good account of himself, not far away from his teammate. What a qualifying it was. But tomorrow in the race will be a little bit different because we are going to be having the McLaren fighting back. Lando Norris starting P10, Gasly P9. The championship leader is starting P10. For the second week in a row, Lando Norris not starting on the front row or on the second row, and that is not speaking well for his championship. I think at this time I need Drake's number to call him on how he can manage his BP and manage himself, because the Lando Norris he has bet upon this season is already making a lot of blunders. His teammate is doing a quite stellar job. That's Oscar Piastri. Let's see how the race pans out tomorrow. I can't tell you how it will be, but certainly we are going to have the Mercedes engine on the podium. Remember, McLaren is carrying the Mercedes engine. Carlos Sainz of Williams is carrying the Mercedes engine. Mercedes itself is carrying the Mercedes engine. So it's going to be funny, but certainly you're going to have a Mercedes engine on the podium. We are on the podium, I can't tell you, but it's going to be a good race. Up until tomorrow, I love you guys. Bye.